Imagine working your whole life to finally hit a six-figure salary. $100,000. The number you were told would mean comfort, freedom, and security. And yet, you're still stressed about bills, still checking your bank balance, still afraid one emergency could wipe you out. If a six-figure income feels like survival instead of success, the problem isn't you, it's the system. And once you see how it works, you understand why $100,000 in America no longer means what it used to. The number stayed the same, but everything around it changed. For decades, a six-figure salary was the finish line. It symbolized having made it home ownership, savings, vacations, peace of mind. Parents told their kids that earning six figures meant security. For a long time, that promise was true. But America quietly changed the rules while keeping the same dream alive. Today, the number stayed the same, but the reality collapsed. Expectations never updated. And people are left wondering why success feels so fragile. Let's start with the biggest illusion: gross income versus real-life money. When people hear $100,000, they imagine spending power. But that number is before taxes, healthcare, housing, debt, and inflation. In many states, it shrinks to $65,000 or $70,000 after deductions. That's before paying for a single necessity. The headline number sounds impressive. The take-home reality does not. Now layer housing on top of that. In major U.S. cities, rent alone can cost $2,500 to $4,000 a month. Buying a modest home often means a mortgage that rivals rent, plus taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Housing alone can consume 40 to 50% of take-home pay. At that point, the salary is doing damage control instead of building wealth. There's no room to get ahead. Everything becomes maintenance. Stability turns into a monthly test. Then comes healthcare, one of the most brutal financial traps in America. Even with employer-sponsored insurance, premiums, deductibles, and copays quietly drain thousands every year. People with good jobs still delay care and fear emergencies. A single medical issue can erase years of savings. A six-figure income doesn't protect you from that risk. It just waits. Childcare pushes the pressure even higher. For families with young children, daycare costs can rival rent or mortgage payments. In some states, full-time childcare costs more than public college tuition. Parents earning $100,000 often find themselves barely ahead financially. Sometimes they're worse off than lower-income households with subsidies or family support. The salary looks high, margin is razor-thin, and the stress is constant. Transportation adds another quiet burden. Car payments, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and repairs stack up fast. In much of America, cars aren't optional. They're survival tools. Transportation becomes another unavoidable tax on working life. Student loans often re-enter the picture here too. The irony is cruel. The education required to earn $100,000 often makes the salary feel meaningless. Inflation is the silent multiplier that makes everything worse. Groceries, utilities, insurance, repairs, and subscriptions keep rising. Living expenses grow faster than wages. The purchasing power of $100,000 is far weaker than it was a decade ago. But expectations never adjusted. People still believe the number should deliver the same lifestyle. And when it doesn't, they blame themselves. Lifestyle inflation plays a role, but not in the way people think. This isn't about luxury or excess. Higher-paying jobs often require living in expensive areas, wearing professional clothing, and maintaining reliable transportation. These aren't indulgences, they're job requirements. The salary forces the lifestyle, not the other way around. The costs are baked in. Opting out often isn't an option. There's also the psychological trap of comparison. Six-figure earners compare themselves to wealthier peers and feel behind. They compare themselves to older generations and feel cheated. They compare themselves to social media and feel inadequate. The pressure to keep up isn't about greed, it's about survival. Falling behind feels dangerous. What makes this worse is exclusion from assistance programs. Six-figure earners earn too much to qualify for help, but they don't earn enough to feel safe. This creates a financial no man's land. One emergency is all it takes. One layoff. It's one illness. One major repair. And everything unravels. Job insecurity amplifies the fear. High-paying jobs are often high-pressure and fragile. Layoffs, automation, restructuring, and outsourcing don't spare six-figure earners. When income stops, expenses don't. The lifestyle required to maintain the job becomes the burden. It accelerates collapse instead of preventing it. Security disappears fast. Retirement adds another layer of anxiety. A $100,000 salary sounds impressive until you calculate what retirement actually costs. Healthcare alone can reach hundreds of thousands of dollars. Social Security was never meant to replace full income. Pensions have largely disappeared. That means individuals must fund their own future, and they must do it while barely holding the present together. This is where the illusion becomes dangerous. People blame themselves for not feeling secure. They assume they made bad choices or mismanaged money. They internalize failure that isn't theirs. The truth is, the system redefines success without updating the reward. It demands more effort for less security. It calls that progress. Hard work still matters, but it no longer guarantees safety. A six-figure salary used to be a buffer. Now it's a balancing act. It requires constant monitoring, constant optimization, constant anxiety. Success becomes maintenance. Stability becomes vigilance. Freedom becomes fear management. The middle class didn't vanish overnight. It was stretched thinner over time, and $100,000 earners stand on that fault line. They're too successful to complain and too vulnerable to relax. This silence keeps the illusion alive. People don't admit how stressed they are. They perform success while privately fearing collapse. That's why the number no longer matters. It's not about income. It's about margin. America has systematically erased margin from everyday life. When there's no room for error, rest, or setbacks, even high incomes feel poor. Survival becomes the goal, and exhaustion becomes normal. The real question isn't why $100,000 feels insufficient. It's why survival is the benchmark of success in the richest economy on Earth. Why doing everything right still feels dangerous. Why financial stress is normalized instead of alarming. Till that question is confronted honestly, six figures will continue to feel like a lie. Not because people expect luxury, but because they expect stability. And stability has become rare. If you earn $100,000 and still feel behind, you're not broken. You're experiencing the system exactly as it was built. Once you understand that, the shame lifts. And once the shame lifts, the truth becomes impossible to ignore.